I'm here today with Natasha Gregson Wagner. I am really excited. I'm just excited to hang out, truly, honestly, and get into it. I'm going to start by saying you probably remember this, but when my mom passed away 25 years ago, there was like a week's time that's very blurry to me. Mm-hmm. Those kind of final days of her life, she was in the hospital, and then she passed away, and then her funeral. And I have a very visual memory, and I remember very, very few snippets throughout that, let's say 7 days. But one of the things I remember, like a video, if we had phones then, in my head was you at one point during that week, took my arm and said, "My mom's on the welcoming committee. Your mom will be okay." And I remember it as if it were yesterday. It's something I've retold to other people who have lost a parent, in particular, friends who have lost their mom. Mm-hmm. And I've said to them, someone told me their mom was on the welcoming committee, and my mom is now too, and your mom will be okay. I don't know if you remember that, but it was so powerful for me.
I don't remember that, but what I remember when your mom died was that it felt almost like I was reliving a bit of losing my own mom, because your mom was such a maternal figure for me and such a female force. And I spent so much time at your guys' house and so many dinners there. And she always made me feel so welcome and loved. And so I just wanted to give you guys something to hold on to try to just, like a stepping stone to just get to the next spot.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that I said that and that it resonated for you, because you don't always know what's going to resonate or how people are going to, take what you say.
Totally. And it did. I mean, it's really burned into my brain in the best way possible. So I've known you since I was about 10 years old. And we just established you're roughly 6 years older than I am, 6-ish. So you were 16 when you came into my life. Natasha's one of my older sister Whitney's best friends. And I watched you girls and I learned from you, whether you knew it or not. Honestly, whether I knew it or not. Yeah. So much of my adolescence was built around my older sister's friends coming and hanging out at our house. And we did have a hangouty kind of Definitely. House. And I 100% attribute that to my mom, who was sit down, eat with us, come hang out, whatever you want to have in the fridge, we'll have in the fridge, and sit by the pool, whatever it was. And you in particular spent so much time with us growing up. And to be honest, at that time, I don't think I understood the depths of why you did. To me, it was just that you were a good friend and we had a fun house and there was always a lot of food.
Yes.
But I think there was a whole nother layer to it, which was something having to do with a need of yours that was being fulfilled at my house. Do you think I'm?
Absolutely. I mean, your house felt like the kind of house that I had before my mom died. And I imagined that had my mom lived, she would have been like your mom. She would have been warm and chic and gorgeous and welcoming, and everyone was invited and there was always delicious food to eat. And yeah, you guys sort of parented me. Your mom gave me much needed maternal love. And I don't know if I at the time knew why I was always coming to your house, besides just that I loved it there. But it was like a gravitational pull. And it helped that we lived down the street from each other. So that was hugely convenient. But yeah, and I'm sure that your mom saw in me a need for her. She probably really recognized that in me.
I remember her saying it a few times and being, I don't know in what context or when or why or how, but would say something along the lines of, Natasha needs a mom or something like that, in not a in such a positive, lovely way. Yeah. And I remember not really understanding that, and I didn't really understand the depths of. Clearly, I didn't understand the depths of what losing a mom was like and how that affects you for the rest of your life, How old were you when your mom died?
I was 11.
So I think about it a lot because my little brother, Robbie, who we both love, he was 10 when she was diagnosed with cancer. He was 15 when she died. And I've always been so tuned into him and his emotional roller coaster, if I may, because of losing a mom at that sort of pivotal age.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's, just something it's so impactful in a way that you literally can't understand unless you're in that awful club,
Yes.
right? And I don't know. It's I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I liked it talking about it with you, but it's something that is personal to everybody, yet a shared experience that I think we can understand.
And do you feel, after Lenny died, do you feel like you became Robbie's mom?
Totally.
You stepped into that role.
Yeah. And I was always very maternal. Like when my brother came home from the hospital, I was like, oh, here's my little baby brother. I'm going to take care of him. And I did. My mom, when she would go out for dinner, even though there was like a babysitter or whatever, a proper nanny, or she would look at me and say, make sure Robbie goes to bed. She didn't look at my two older sisters and say that because she knew I would and I'd really want to. I sort of had that desire in me always. But 100%, I was really protective of him and tried to be in a borderline big sister motherly role for him because I think I just knew how important it was. And losing my mom, I was 21, has shaped so much of my life. And I think obviously, and I really want to talk to you about this. So it's been 25 years since my mom died. And I've made so many decisions along the way as an adult that I don't even know if I was consciously doing it at the time that were definitely dictated by the loss of my mom. So the big one, which we share, is this really burning desire inside to keep her memory and her spirit alive through the path I've chosen. The other is how I've chosen to be with my kids. And I know I'm really lucky and blessed that I can have spent so much time with them growing up, but I don't think it would have mattered, like our financial situation. I couldn't give up those moments because there's something in the back of your head that's like your reality. Like you might not be here. So you need to just savor all of this and be there and be present for them. And then also career-wise of pouring more of myself sort of outside the home, I would say, as I've gotten older and my kids have gotten older.
I agree with all of those things. I mean, something about working on or being sort of like the mother of my mother's legacy, and being older than she ever got to be, which you are the same.
She was diagnosed with cancer at 48 and I'm 47. So next year's like that, moment.
It's a big moment when you turn the age your mom was, that she died. And then it's also wild to then I'm 53. My mom died when she was 43. So I'm 10 years older than she ever got to be. And then because I have a daughter and you have 3 boys, yes, I want to preserve her legacy. I want to be the person that is in control of the narrative, because I don't like in our situation, because my mom was famous, anybody that has an opinion, they're just welcome to have it and share it whenever they want. And I don't like that. And so as I became more sort of secure within myself and in my own family, I decided that I was going to take control of the narrative and put out the woman that I knew, which is why I made the documentary. And in terms of not working, that was just like a no-brainer. Well, I was also 41 when Clover was born. So I had, dreamed about having a child and didn't know if I was going to get that opportunity because I met Barry when I was 39. And he had 2 children already, and the last thing he wanted was another one. So I want to spend all my time with Clover, and she's my favorite person, and it's so much fun. And so when she was really little and we lived in Venice, it was like me and all the nannies at like the Moo Moo music class and the this class and the that class. I didn't care. And but what I wonder if you feel like this, but I really feel like being such a hands-on mom I have reparented myself a lot, and I have healed so many of my wounds through my daughter and parenting her.
100%. And I think there's even been moments when I recognize that I'm doing that. And those times where you wanted to ask, you just wanted to talk to your mom and say, what do I do now? Like, what does this mean? And how do I deal with this? When the wonderful, great moments is equally as the really hard and maybe sad ones.
Yeah.
They're very equal into when I want to pick up the phone and call her. The number is still blazed in my head. I'm sure it is in yours of just, what do I do? Like, how are you going to help me get through this? And then realizing you can't, but having to figure that out has absolutely helped me grow and continue to heal, I would say. Right?
Yeah, I think so. And did you find women in your life that were sort of stand-in mothers? Like I started with Linny.
Yeah.
Have you continued to do that?
Yeah. And it was interesting because it was some of the women that were close to my mom that I didn't think would take that role. So the natural ones, it didn't actually happen. It was a couple of her, what the older friends would call her newer friends.
Okay.
So friends of hers that she hadn't had since grammar school, a newer mom friend who really wanted to be that person for me. And I gravitated towards naturally. And 2.5 decades later, they're the older women that I call who have more life experience, who, just have more life experience and depth and wealth of knowledge that I'm excited to hear it from them.
Absolutely. And I also think, I don't know if you feel like this, but I feel like I have such intensely close female friendships because of losing my mom young. And I definitely look to my girlfriends as mother figures and balms, and like Clover, it's funny, she gravitates towards boys still, right? And she's very much I wouldn't call her a tomboy, but she likes to play sports and guitar, and just all her best friends are boys. And she has a couple girlfriends, but I said to her the other day, it's middle school and you're gonna want to make some girlfriends. And she's like, well, I have you. Aww. And I was like, you do have me, but I'm your mom too. But I was thinking, maybe the reason, it made me wonder if one of the reasons I have sought out female friendships so intensely is because I didn't have what Clover has.
I'm sure it is. And I didn't have, my closest friends now are girls that I grew up with, that I've known my whole life. And those friendships were really reinvigorated when my mom passed away. And I think it's because now that I look back and I have the hindsight and also the growth years to know it, I reached out to them and sort of pulled them back into my life in a way that they knew me. Yeah. They knew my family. They knew my mom. They knew my household. They knew the dynamics that existed or exist with my siblings and my parents. And so the way that they could understand me and our friendship could sort of then really thrive.
So there was really like different. A safety there with them kind of, and a through line of your childhood or like the time in your life before she died.
Yeah. It was really, and it's very comforting. There's something really, it's just really comforting in knowing that they look at me and we can talk about what's happening in the present, but with this built on this foundation of our whole lives, going through puberty together, all those things.
Yeah. And I think when you have a mother who was a force of nature, like your mother
larger
was.
Than life. And your mom.
I mean, your mom wasn't a movie star, but she was a movie star in her world of Brentwood, with all her friends. And she had her own star quality, in my opinion. And, everybody loved her and gravitated to her and stuff like that. And so when you have a parent like that and you have your friends that were around that kind of a parent, yes, you still want them in your life because they saw that like golden time of your life.
Yeah.
Do you talk a lot with your boys about your mom? Like
all the time. Yeah. Like they call her Grandma Linny and they know her. It was really funny. My middle son loves, he's like very male and this like credible athlete and all this stuff. But he's, of all my boys, like loves jewelry. And he loves to come in my closet and like look in my jewelry drawer. And the other day he pulled out a necklace that was one of the last things my mom gave me. And it's just a really pretty little necklace that was very appropriate for a teenager. And he's like, I want to wear this. I said, you can, but I'm going to tell you the story behind it. And he was like, oh, now I really want to wear it. Like your mom gave it to you and I can wear it. And it's like an heirloom.
Oh, yeah.
It's really sweet. Yeah.
That is so sweet. Yes. I really love talking to Clover about my mom. But
what do you talk to her about? Like, what do you say?
I'll say things like, oh, Grandma Natalie, because Clover loves to chew gum. She's like, I say Grandma Natalie loved to chew gum.
Same with
also.
My mom.
I know she did. Yes. And I don't really like to chew
neither.
gum.
And my youngest son likes to chew gum too. And I like hate it.
So like little things like that when Clover is super organized and, likes everything in its place. And my mom was like that. I'm like that too. So, I like to point out to Clover the way she's similar to her grandma or I'll tell her funny stories about my mom. And she knows a bit about, her career and stuff like that. It is also very healing to keep them alive in our family with our children and stuff like that.
In such a positive way too, really keeping alive and real. I've tried not to be like too overwhelmingly, they were perfect because then they're striving to be that. But very real. And they were these amazing women who, like you said, they were both, your mom was a movie star in the age of golden movie stars. And my mom did. She was like the star of her own Real Housewives.
Yes, I think so.
Without the like ridiculous drama. Yeah, 100%.
And she was sort of like the hub, like everything just kind of flowed around Linny. So, and my mom was like that. But the other thing Clover asked me once, she said, Mom, are you so sad that you don't have a mom? And I was like, I wanted to be honest. And of course I was honest, but she's like, but how do you not feel sad about it all the time? Because if I didn't have you, I would feel so sad all the time. And so I had to really think about that, because how do we not feel sad about it all the time?
Well, how do you not feel sad about it?
I think I've spent a lot of years working very hard on myself in therapy and in other spiritual ways that I work where I trust that she's nearby and that the life that I've created for myself, I love. I love my life and I wouldn't want it any other way. And I certainly wouldn't trade my daughter for my mom.
Yeah.
Even though I wish my mom could be a here on earth grandma. But yeah, I guess there's this play by David Lindsay Abaire. It's called Rabbit Hole. And the last scene in the play, the daughter, Becca, had lost her son and her mom had lost her brother. And they were finally cleaning the clothes out of the boy's room. And Becca asks her mom, like, Mom, does it ever go away? And she said, no, it never goes away, but it's kind of like a brick in your pocket. You put your hand in there and you're like, that's what I have. Instead of my person, I have this brick. And then Becca says, and then the mom says, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And it is, right?
Yeah, it has to be.
It has to be. It completely has to be. But of course, there are times that feel so poignant and harder than other times.
And how have you found this incredible creation? I don't know what to call it. A business, a brand, a life?
I don't know either what to call it.
But a culmination, an
evolution.
And with the documentary and then these physical products that you've made that are, I can't imagine. I actually thought about it today and I was like, I have lots of like very intense memories of my mom. Most of them are what she was wearing or her, like she had some funny jewelry, like things like that. She had
those big pearls,
right? Big pearls. Yeah. And then she had a lot of like what she would call her like costume neck earrings that were like huge. Yeah. But they weren't like precious, but they were precious to her. But it made me think a lot about her scent when I was thinking about talking to you, because my mom had a collection of perfume bottles in her bathroom.
In her bathroom, yeah.
Yeah. But I
remember a scent that your mom wore a lot.
What was it?
I don't remember the name of it, but I just remember the smell of it, kind of. Or that when we came into your house, we could smell your mom.
You could. And I was like, oh my God, what if I tried to recreate? That'd be so interesting. But you've done it, and you've made, must have been the scent of your mom just lingers in your life, and to put it into this gorgeous bottle and have her name on it. Like, what did that do for you? How did it feel? How did you go down that path?
So Clover was about 2 or 3 when I started thinking about it. And I love scent, and gardenia I don't love it like my mom loved it. But it was really not something that it was kind of a foolish thing that I did, because I had no game plan, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I worked. What was good was that I worked with a perfumer for 2 years, because I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to make the scent be exactly what I wanted it to be. So that. But
did you have that like stuck in your nose? Like, did you feel like you had the scent stuck in you?
Yeah, I had her scent stuck in me. Her gardenia by Jungle Gardenia by Tuvache. That's what she wore, or Fracas. And so I knew that smell, but I knew that I wanted it to have the smells that I like, which is more of the citrus, right? Orange blossom and neroli and all that. And so that was like the melding and the marrying that we were doing. But they were in New York and I was in LA, and so it took just a long time, and they would send me and I would go there and stuff. And then I'm like, okay, I finally got the fragrance. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have to pick a bottle, and then I have to do a box and packaging. And so it was very overwhelming, and I didn't think a lot of it through. And then I had 5,000 bottles of this fragrance that I named Natalie. And
and did you always know you would name it Natalie?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I'm actually changing the name of the fragrance to L'Amour Mère, which means mother love in French, because I'm creating a third scent now. So it's growing. But at the time, I just thought, okay, I'll call it Natalie Fragrance. And I had lunch with my acting manager, who I wasn't acting anymore. And she was like, so you have 5,000 bottles of fragrance? What are you going to do with it? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It's in a warehouse. And she's like, okay, you need to meet my friend who's a beauty publicist, and then suddenly I started working with this amazing woman named Merritt Loughran, who has a beauty publicity company called MMLPR. And she just like took the whole idea. And the next thing I knew, I had sold out of those 5,000 bottles, and I had to order more. And then I was just kind of like on this thing. And so, but the reason that the fragrance is so important to me is that it was the first time when I did an interview with this woman, Katie Rosman, for the New York Times style section. And she came to my house, and we spent like 2 days together and a lot of time together. And I talked super honestly about my grieving process, about my mom, about my divorce, about, the trials and tribulations of my life, and in a way that I had never done before. And then they said, oh, they're going to put you guys on the cover of the magazine, of the style section, on the Sunday style section. And I was so petrified, because I'm like, what did I say to her? What is this going to feel like? But then I read the article, and I felt
it was so amazing.
Thank you. But I felt so much better. I was like, yeah, this is who I am. Like, this is my authentic truth. And so that was sort of what got me on the path of wanting to talk more about my mom. And so then that's how sort of the documentary started to come to be, and my book. And then the fragrance just kind of went into the background. I mean, it was still, we were still selling it, but I wasn't that involved for a few years because I was busy doing the other stuff. Now I'm back involved because I have all these great ideas. I think they're great ideas. And no, if someone told me 10 years ago that I would be have done any of these things related to my mom, I would have said no way, because I was always so private about it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was kept me like in the dark a little bit with my sadness, and that putting myself more into the light and having like what's specific become universal has really been like the best thing I could have done.
Do you feel like you know her better after doing
For
all these
sure.
things?
Oh my gosh. I know so much more about her than I did, because I don't know if you feel like this with your mom, but like I kind of felt for a long time like, this is what I know of my mom, and these are my memories, and they're just here in this box, and they go with me where I go, and I don't need to like get in there and look at other things or add more into the box. Like this is how it is, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
But then when I started to do the research with Laurent Bouzereau, the director, and Manoa Bowman, who is our family archivist and the archivist for the documentary, and he and I worked on a coffee table book about my mom called Reflections on a Legendary Life. You know, it was helpful for me for other people to be like, oh my God, did you know that your mom did this? Or look at this, Natasha, did you know? Look at this magazine, or look at this writing of your mom's, or, you know, and so it was like a little bit like being Alice in Wonderland, because you just don't know, like, a couple times I like fell too far down and in the rabbit hole, and I'm like, oh, this is intense.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm the adult. I'm the mom.
You're
now.
the mom.
I'm the mom. I'm her mom.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like that about your mom?
Totally.
Yeah, I feel like that. I'm her mom, and I'm definitely the mom of, or the parent of her legacy. You
are.
know? So.
And what about the responsibility that comes along with that? How does that make you feel?
It's a lot of responsibility. I feel fine with it while I'm alive. I worry if I were to not be here. I've talked to some different people about who would carry that on and take care of it and all of that, because it is. And then my godfather, who I was really close to, who was a playwright, Mark Crowley, he passed away in 2020, and he left me his estate as well. So I have the responsibility of his estate.
Yeah.
And I actually think I'm the right person for these jobs, because I like it. Like, I like to be the wind beneath other people's wings, kind of.
Yeah.
Also, you know, the way your mom was and the way we grew up and the way my mom, you know, that's kind of like a different, people aren't really like that so much.
It was a different
anymore.
era.
It was a different era. And so I like the idea of educating people about those times, you know, because people lived so elegantly and with so much dignity, you know, that isn't always, we don't always see that.
No. I mean, I joke sometimes, or there's a friend of mine that I have been friends with since we were in kindergarten, and she would always say, where were our moms going?
Oh my God, that's so funny.
They were in like full pantsuits.
They were always dressed up
in heels for like no reason.
Yeah,
you know,
it was
just
going?
Monday. I don't know.
Yeah. Because there's no way that on a Monday they would be in their sweatpants.
There was no sweatpants.
Yeah,
like it wasn't an option.
Yeah.
No, and jeans was a big deal. And I just think back, I'm like, I have no idea.
That's
you know,
so funny.
even like a luncheon, like it didn't require that level of dressiness, and it just and that's just like the physical representation. That was just 100% how she did things, to go to the market, to carry herself, all of those things,
the
jewelry and the makeup, and you know, the whole. I mean, my mom would put on a full face of makeup before she worked out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. She always looked completely perfect.
And she didn't look like she had caked on makeup, but she never, and I remember one time saying, you're not really working out if like your eyeliner, everything's on, you're not sweating. She's like, yeah, I know, but I have somewhere to go right afterwards. I don't have time in between. And I work out now and I'm like drenched. And if I have eyeliner, even like one thing of like my upper lids of mascara, it's like all over my face. I can't even do that. It was such a different time in a different way.
Or what about like if you're in a hurry and so you're like, okay, I'm going to work out and then I'm going to go to the market and then I'm going to get home and I'm going to make, dinner or lunch or whatever. And then you haven't even looked in the mirror.
No.
And then it's like 4:00 and you finally look in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been out all day looking like this. Where our moms would never have done that.
Never. Definitely not.
They would put themselves together first before they did anything else.
100%. And there's something nice about that for sure. But there is also something that was so elegant and elevated and motherly.
Yes,
that was really nice. And even though I think it created more of a separation between, your teenage daughters and the mom.
Yeah.
It also made it like something to aspire to and to feel like that's what I'm supposed to do when I grow up. And I don't know, something nice
had
about
like
it.
A model kind of this is what being an adult woman looks like. I remember my mom wouldn't wear a lot of makeup like when she was home around the house, like on a Sunday or in the mornings and stuff. And I remember I said to her once, like, I don't understand why people think you're so pretty. Like, I don't, you don't look that pretty to me, And also all my two best friends, their moms were like these blonde beauties and they looked more like Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like what beautiful was,
right.
I didn't think this like tiny brown haired woman with like freckles and big eyes was like the thing. So
that's funny. But your mom radiated from within.
Yes.
I remember the first time I watched Splendor in the Grass with my mom and she, I think it was that moment. I must have been 10, 11 or something years old on the younger side to watch that movie, I think. And I think she told me at that time, that's when she told me this is Natasha's mom.
Oh.
And we cried, the whole movie. And yeah, there was you don't need to hear this from me, but this magnetism and just larger than life sparkle that came out of her eyes that you have that was so mesmerizing. And I think after all these years with what you're doing with her memory and her legacy, it plays on that sparkle. Like it didn't ever go away.
Yeah.
Not just for you, but for so many other people.
Yes. And I mean, that's what's kind of funny about the I guess it's a brand sort of now. Yeah. The community that I've created that love my mom or they love the fragrance or they read the book or the documentary or whatever, they're so grateful that I'm doing all this stuff. And so that also feels like a healing too and they've all found each other like on the Instagram or the Facebook or whatever. And so I makes me so happy because in fact, on my way here, one of my friends called and said, we had this friend and she was 80 years old and she passed away. And it turned out that she loved your mom and she has a scrapbook of like all these pictures of your mom.
Oh my God.
Do you want it? And I was like, oh my God, I have like 400,000 of those because my grandma made scrapbooks and we have like a memorabilia thing. And so I was like, no, I don't want it. But, give it maybe to the Goodwill and someone will find it there or whatever. But like she really impacted a lot of people. And so,
you're introducing her to a whole nother generation of women, men, whatever, that didn't know her when she was alive and are now introducing her to these people. And then they can watch her movies and understand who she was at such a different level.
And that she did so much for her business, she was like the highest paid movie star.
She was so ahead of her time.
Life, and she was the boss of a lot of things. But she never she didn't wear it like in this tough way. She was still really sweet and kind of feminine about it all, but she had this insane amount of power. And I love for other people, younger generations, to learn about her, not just her, everybody from that time, because they inform the time that we're living in now. Yeah, and I'm proud of her. I'm proud of the accomplishments she's made, and I want people to, and I think it's cute, like on TikTok and stuff, people talk about her makeup or her fashion or whatever. And I think that's awesome, you know?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. And I think to have, bottled her scent mixed with yours is, it's so everlasting. I mean, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
I love scent. I think what you leave lingering in the room is so
nice.
important. Yeah.
It is. And also, that was like one of the most bittersweet parts, I think, when she died. I don't know if you felt like this with Lindy, but I still smelled her, but she wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so it's
like troubling.
Yes. And it was like, it was a paradox. Like there was the comfort in her smell, but then the heartbreak of the fact that she was gone. And I don't know, I think that might be part of why I wanted to do the fragrance, because it just never made sense, like the smell thing, How could they be gone, but their scent is still there? And so, and this third one I'm working on, the third fragrance, it's a lot related to the churches that I went into as a child, and like the incense, the smell of incense in the churches. And
why did you go into churches as a child?
Because my grandma was Russian Orthodox and was very into church, and she would always take me, and my mom would always say, "Don't take Natasha to church," and we always went. But I was mesmerized by the whole thing, and not just the prayer, but like the smell. Like I just loved the incense, like the priest that would go wave those things, and then the smell of the wood. And often like getting there, this happened a lot when we were living in the south of France. We would walk through there, and then the smell of the flowers, getting there. And so like this new one is going to be about that, like kind of like the memory of like this moment, this time with my grandma. And I guess the thing with fragrance is that it is a story that you tell, with the smell, with the scent and the different flowers. So when we do the run at the end of the month, like, do you feel your mom there so much, or how does that, or do you just feel like that's?
No, there's different events that we do with the Lynn Cohen Foundation, but that run, Kicking Cancer, you're referring to the big 5K walk run, is where I feel her presence the most.
You do.
I do. There's so many reasons. We're right in Brentwood in West LA, which was like, as you said, she was the star of that movie. Yes. And it's outside, it's families, it's so many different people. It's all about like life and vitality and movement. And those are the times when I feel her the most, because she was so alive. And I feel like she would have loved it. Like that would have been something she was like, we're going to do this because it's going to be fun and we're all going to walk. And it's so put together really nicely. Like that's a really important factor of it. And yeah, I absolutely feel her presence. I feel her in really running this foundation and pouring my heart and my soul. And it's been my entire adult life, really.
I mean, you started it pretty soon.
We started it right when she died. And then within like 18 months, I decided this is what I wanted to do with my life. And I was barely 23 years old.
That's right.
And so it's been my way to heal. It's been my way to process. And it's been my way to grow in all the ways that you've described, is, becoming a mom myself and mothering her legacy and keeping it alive, but trying to do it in the most impactful and real way. And not really sugarcoating anything, and doing the things that I think were really important to her for others and giving them that.
Yes.
Has been really worthwhile.
Because she was such a great friend, your mom.
She was such a great friend, and she would, she was the one at the dinner table. If no one knew each other, it was like her responsibility to make sure everyone had a good time. And she was a bringer together of people, like,
Totally.
And so I think that's what I've tried to do, is have it be a community.
Community.
Yeah.
Community is so important. The older I get too, the more I feel like, oh, I am a part of a community. And certainly when your children are young and in school, you're a part of that community.
Yeah.
But that community really shows up for people.
Yeah. If you're authentic and it's a good one. Yeah. Or you seek out like that real authentic community.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
But also I wanted to say about the 5K that I feel like whenever we do it, I reconnect with a lot of my friends from when we were all growing up and stuff. And I think of your mom, and I think she'd be so happy that we're like all together and we're all talking.
Yeah.
And, because she was and my mom was the same. I mean, that was why I gravitated to your mom, because she reminded me of my mom. And and I think that maybe if we're lucky enough to live long lives, I think that we'll miss our moms, when we're 80 or 90.
It doesn't go away.
No.
It just is exactly how you put it from that play. It's a brick in your pocket. And sometimes it's really heavy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's kind of light and it is stuck to you. And there are moments when I feel her presence. There are moments when I want to feel her presence. And there are moments when I feel like I'm okay. I'm okay. And I've taken the time like you have to really get to know myself and try to be the best version of myself. And we're not perfect and we've had highs and lows, but I think that it's what makes today possible, right? And doing all the amazing things that you're doing. I remember those years when I was little of you being a teenager and then through college in your mid-20s. And I remember you really, really well. And I can say with good amount of certainty that everything you've been through has made you who you are today. And I don't think your mom left your side through any of it.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. I think you're right. I do feel her all the time. But the funny thing is that sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm so old. I'm way too old today to be missing my mom. Like I'm way too old to feel like an 11-year-old or a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old. And because sometimes all you want is like your mom to just give you a hug or tell you it's going to be okay, or just look at you the way they looked at you, Yeah. And those are like those things that we don't have. We'll never get those back.
No.
And so, but it was the cards we were dealt.
It is. And you have a choice, of how you're going to take those in and then sort of push them out to the world.
Right.
And I think it's a process to do it well and do it right for you. But if you allow yourself to go through the process and to grow into the person that you're supposed to be and that best version of yourself, I think you can throw those cards out in a really powerful way.
Absolutely. The hardest thing is to just like allow the messiness, the discomfort of the feelings. But then if you do, they pass. And that's what's so unbelievable.
So to wrap it up, or I'd talk to you forever, Natasha, tell me kind of the one thing that you've learned about your mom through the documentary and the fragrance and the beautiful book that you didn't know or that surprised you or is sort of the most dear.
Well, I think that when I knew my mom, she was very much in control of her life. She was the boss of our household. She was the boss of my dad. She was the boss of us. Her friends, she was like a very empowered, to me, she seemed incredibly empowered. And I think what I learned about her was that she had a lot of vulnerable times in her life as well. And times that she was worried that she didn't know which path to take or how to get through a tight spot. Times that I've had, in my own life. And so that made me feel like, wow, she wasn't born just like, I've got this, like she had her moments and that there were ups and downs, and so I look at my own life and I think, okay, if I'm scared right now, or I don't know the answer to this problem, or I don't know how I'm going to get out of this tight spot, it's going to be okay because I will figure it out, just like she figured it out. And so maybe I would say I learned about her vulnerability and her strength, because my godfather would always say, your mom was the strongest of any of us. She held us all up. And even though she was scared a lot of the time, and so am I, and it is scary as a mom. You don't know if you're doing the right thing all the time, and you don't know if the choices you make are going to be the right ones and all of that. So you kind of rely on your instinct and your intuition and your knowledge. but sometimes you fail.
Totally. You're just human.
Yeah, we're just human.
You just got to do the best you can.
Yeah, so I think I really got to understand more of her humanness because I always looked up to her